Episode 23, What's Her Secret? Jeff ran over to the lake the moment he saw Elaine jump in and followed her into the water without a second thought. Fortunately, Jeff was a good swimmer, so he grabbed Elaine by her clothes and tried his best to swim toward the shore.
What are you doing? Let me die.
Elaine shouted. She struggled to get free from Jeff's grasp, but he held tight and wouldn't let go. Eventually, with a lot of effort, Jeff managed to pull Elaine safely back to the shore. Elaine sat on the grass by the lake and asked in a sad voice.
Why did you save me? Why didn't you let me die?
Elaine's entire body was drenched. Her clothes were clinging tightly to her body, outlining her delicate figure and making her look extremely pitiful.
Why did I save you?
Jeff caught his breath. He really couldn't understand Elaine's thoughts or actions.
You might think you want to die, but have you considered your parents? Who will support them in the future? And the state has supported you for so many years. And this is how you repay society. What are you thinking?
Jeff wanted to wake Elaine up from her self-pity and give her reasons to want to live. Elaine was a little shocked by Jeff's words. She hugged her knees and started to feel calmer.
You said you're not afraid of death, but why don't you have the courage to live?
Jeff's tone became a little gentler. Elaine raised her head and looked at Jeff with her big, watery eyes. Her eyes were shining brightly. She broke Jeff's heart. He suddenly had a feeling that this girl was not the sort of person he thought she was.
If it was possible for someone to live, why would they choose to die?
Elaine sounded hopeless.
If you've got problems, why don't you tell me about them? Maybe I can help you?
Jeff asked, trying to sound positive. When she saw Jeff's sincere gaze, Elaine knew that he really wanted to help her. A warm feeling rose from deep within her heart, making her feel very comfortable, but Elaine's heart chilled when she thought about her situation.
You can't help me,
she said.
Just tell me what it is. Believe me, I can definitely help you.
Jeff replied. Coming from such a rich family, he was sure that he could easily help her.
I'm really grateful that you want to help me, but forget it, there's nothing you can do.
Elaine smiled faintly. She felt that the stranger in front of her was very kind.
Okay.
Jeff sighed. He continued in a serious tone.
But I hope at least you'll promise me not to do such a stupid thing again.
All right, I promise.
Elaine responded. Jeff felt reassured. He pulled Elaine up from the ground and said,
Oh, yeah, and don't buy such expensive food in the future. I don't think it's something you and your family can really afford.
Elaine's face reddened, and she lowered her head slightly. She tugged at her clothes with both hands and whispered,
Actually, I normally eat for less than $2 a day. I thought today was my last day on Earth, so I plucked up the courage to go to the restaurant for seafood risotto.
Listening to Elaine's gentle voice, Jeff's heart couldn't help but soften.
Then why did you order 2 servings?
I know it's too extravagant to eat $40 in a single meal, but to save money, I haven't eaten for the past 2 days, so I'm really hungry. That's why I ordered 2 servings.
Elaine's voice was becoming softer and softer.
I understand.
Jeff replied. Looking at the shy and timid Elaine, he decided that she was exceptionally cute.
Come here.
Elaine pulled Jeff back to the stone where she'd left the food. She smiled warmly at Jeff, then gave him a stick of risotto.
Here, eat.
Jeff quickly refused.
No need. Aren't you hungry? You eat it up,
he said. A few minutes later, Elaine said,
It's good that you haven't just eaten. I just realized that I can only eat one of these meals. After all, I'm already full. Here you have it.
Elaine raised her chin.
Okay.
Jeff took the stick and sat on the stone to eat.
You sit down, too,
Jeff said. While eating, Elaine was watching him, and it made him feel self-conscious.
Okay.
Elaine sat beside him. Jeff had just used a lot of energy saving Elaine and was now very hungry. He ate quickly, and some grains of food stuck to his face. Jeff and Elaine chatted as they ate. Only then did Jeff find out that Elaine had been praying to her mother in her hometown in the Northeast, begging forgiveness for her actions. By the time they'd finished eating, they both felt that there was something special between them.
Can I see you tomorrow?
Jeff scratched his head and asked with a hint of embarrassment.
I have a really good feeling about Elaine.
He thought.
And I really want to protect her. I'll be really upset if I can't see her again.
Elaine was surprised by Jeff's question, and she blushed. She listened to her heart and responded.
Sure.
The next day at noon, as soon as Jeff had finished his classes, he went straight to Ramsey Lake. There he saw a delicate figure sitting on the same rock. He walked over with his heart fluttering. Elaine heard his footsteps and turned around. In her hand was a red and yellow plastic bag. She stood up and handed the bag to him, saying,
"This is for you."
Jeff was pleasantly surprised. He took the plastic bag from her and saw that it contained peaches, plums and apricots. The fruit were in pieces with droplets of water on them.
Did you buy this fruit just for me?
He asked.
It's too expensive. Please don't buy it in future.
He continued, although he was deeply touched.
I know that many people eat fruit every day, but for Elaine, eating fresh fruit is a luxury.
He thought.
"Eat them."
Elaine replied.
"These fruits are all in season now, so they're not expensive, and they're leftovers that no one else wanted. The shop manager sold them to me at half price. I'll clean them up and dig out the bad bits for you. Don't worry about it."
Elaine said with some doubt.
How could I not worry?
Jeff was surprised by Elaine.
She'd saved up some money to buy me fruit, yet she has so many of her own problems on her mind.
Jeff picked up a peach and stuffed it into his mouth, splattering the juice everywhere.
Yum. It's really delicious.
He said.
Why don't you have some too? This peach is so sweet.
Jeff picked up a peach and gave it to Elaine. Elaine looked at Jeff, who was happily eating, and smiled sweetly as she put the peach into her mouth. Over the next few days, Jeff and Elaine would meet at the lake at noon every day. Each day, Jeff would first eat at the cafeteria, then bring food to eat again with Elaine. Elaine was always pleased to see him. Of course, the dishes that Jeff brought were all the most basic ones. He wasn't ready yet for Elaine to find out who he really was. One particular day, Jeff packed a second serving of soup and vegetable stir-fry and went to Ramsey Lake. Strangely, Elaine wasn't there.
She should be here by now.
Jeff said to himself.
I wonder what's keeping her today.
Jeff sat calmly on the rock and thought.
Elaine's never been out for a proper meal before. She's bound to be thrilled when I take her to the best restaurant in New York.
He sat on the rock and waited for 20 minutes, but Elaine still didn't come. Seeing the food was getting cold, he took out his phone and called her.
Elaine, where are you?
He asked. She answered.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I can't make it today. Our class is doing experiments in the laboratory, and I can't leave.
Okay.
Jeff looked at his phone and had an idea.
Elaine can't come to me, but I can take the food to her.
He picked up the food and walked quickly toward the laboratory building. When he arrived, he called Elaine. He told her that he'd arrived and asked her which laboratory she was in.
Oh.
She answered.
You came to the laboratory. I'm leaving now. Eat by yourself today. Don't worry about me.
Elaine's voice sounded strained, and when Jeff asked where she was, she hung up the phone. Jeff had a bad feeling.
Is Elaine hiding something from me?
He wondered, and he felt increasingly uneasy. He ran out of the lab, threw his food into the trash can, and started to look for Elaine anywhere he could think of: the cafeteria, the supermarket, the lab. He looked everywhere he thought she might be, but he couldn't find her, and she wasn't answering his calls. Jeff had run out of options. His heart felt in disarray. He walked despondently to the playing field, sat down on the grass and, still in a daze, watched people jogging around the track. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he saw a petite figure sitting in the corner of the stands. He was sure it was Elaine. He felt invigorated as he quickly stood up and ran toward her.
Elaine, why didn't you answer my calls?
Yes, Elaine. As he walked up to her, he was still feeling upset, but when she raised her head, he was shocked. Elaine's face was battered and bruised, and her eyes were swollen. Her pretty face was a mess.